Okay, we're gonna, excuse me, do the internal view of the skull, and we're gonna tell some stories, kind of some mnemonics to remember some of this stuff. Starting on number 1, the frontal sinus and the frontal crest. I kind of went over on the cranium. Again, the crest is going to just be this section right here, and where this hole would be, there's a sinus in there. That's your frontal sinus. Now for number 3, 4, and 5 on your sheet, we're going to teach you a story, and it is little Krista Galley lies in her crib-reform plate playing hide and seek 'em. Okay, so Krista Galley is the little bone. Okay, this bony section, that's the Krista Galley. Again, lying in the crib-reform plate, the crib-reform plate of the ethmoid, playing hide and seek 'em. Seek 'em is for the foramen cecum, which on the model you can see is the hole just anterior to the Krista Galley. So that's number 3, 4, and 5. Number 6, groove for anterior ethmoidal nerve and vessels. You can see this better on the real skull, Dr. Phelan told us, but essentially it's these grooves that go around the plate. You can actually see them here in the book. This one right here, follow that. It's that groove right there.
Kind of up into the frontal bone.
Yeah. Good. Let's go on to number 7. Lesser wing of the sphenoid is going to be this area right here, whereas the greater wing is down here and encompasses the foramen spinosum, ovale, and part of the lacerum, which will cover all that. Something to remember, lesser is actually above the greater, so lesser is superior. Prechiasmatic groove, that is a groove formed where the optic nerves cross as they leave this area, so you have kind of a groove right here. Again, you can't see it too well on the models, but a groove that's right here, prechiasmatic groove. So, excuse me, actually it's right here, because then the optic nerves come out and go through the optic canals. So that groove is right here on the anterior portion of the pituitary fossa, which is the next one. Now is where we teach you the cowboy story, okay?
What story?
The cowboy story, yeehaw. Okay, so the cowboy sits right here in the pituitary fossa, or sella turcica, which means Turkish saddle, okay? So he's actually facing straight forward. He's sitting in the sella turcica, Turkish saddle. He looks through the optic canals right here. And then if you look down, coming right off the sella turcica, you have these 2 big foramen. Those are called the foramen lacerum. So he's got his lasso, foramen lacerum. He's got his lasso that hangs down into the foramen lacerum, okay? The other thing that he can do is he can look down here into the valley, foramen ovale, and then he spits off to the side into the foramen spinosum, okay? So lasso in the lacerum, looks out into the valley, the ovale, and spits into the spinosum, okay? Oh, and rotundum. Rotundum is where the cowboy puts his boots.
His round boots.
His round boots, his rotundo boots. So if you look here, you can actually see, sorry, I'm moving that, optic canal, superior orbital fissure, and then inferior to the superior orbital fissure is the foramen rotundum. So his boots are sticking forward. It may be hard to visualize, but there it is. Again, we went over greater wing of the sphenoid, which is this area right here. Grooves for meningeal vessels. We'll just go to number 20 and then stop this video. So, grooves for meningeal vessels, those come out of the spinosum, and you can actually see them pretty well on the model. They kind of curve forward, and then that groove is going to go up, okay? And remember that on the outside of the skull is the pterion. That's where you get those sutures that mate, and the meningeal vessels go up there. Number 16, the superior petrosal sinus, that groove is going to be right here along the petrous portion, which, let me show you, this is kind of cool. If you've ever had a Game Boy and played Tetris, okay, your thumbs go right there, the petrous portion, or the tetrish portion, okay? It's those big things that stick up right there. So again, that's the groove for the superior petrosal sinus. The groove for the sigmoid sinus, I'm going to turn this around, you can actually see quite well on the models. The groove for the sigmoid sinus is going to be right here. You see it kind of S curves. Goes right here through the jugular foramen. So S curves right here. This would be the groove for the transverse sinus, right? Makes sense, it's going transversely. And then you have here the confluence of sinuses, where the transverse sinus meets the superior sagittal sinus, which again goes up along the inside of the cranium. And then the last thing to cover, the internal occipital protuberance. Again, right there's the internal occipital protuberance. That's where you're going to get the confluence of sinuses.